Death. Death is something that happens to all of us. It can't be paid off, outran, or outfought. One day we all have to come to terms with death. Prevalent within our society, everything we do, such as the things we eat, drink, our physical exercise, mental exercise, is all to prolong death as long as possible. But it can't be prolonged forever. One day, we'll all have to face its judgment. Sorry, that was a bit depressing, but it kind of sets off the mood for this video. I just finished watching Your Lie in April, which I like to call Our Trauma in April. And obviously that has me questioning a lot. It's a pretty good show and pretty dramatic too. I'm not even gonna lie to you. And my initial reaction was, why did Kiari have to die? But thinking it over more, I realized that the main tragedy of it is that she had to die. And character deaths are super important within our stories. And I believe this is for 6 reasons. Number 1, death makes consequences real. Cyberpunk Edge Runners is one of my favorite animes of all time, and it's just super good, along with also being super depressing at the same time. An emotional gut punch, or a roller coaster, however you want to see it. And that's mainly because of David's death and the aftermath. David's death is the line in the sand. Night City is already violent, but until David dies, the danger still feels survivable. People get chewed up, sure, but David keeps pushing, upgrading, and outrunning his consequences. His death finally says, no amount of ambition, love, or chrome beats the system. Nothing can beat the system that's already corrupted. It's also pretty depressing with its song that we all have stuck on our head.
So get away, another way to feel.
And also To the Moon. That whole thing is just wow. But it shows the consequences of his actions. He tried to fight the man, but he didn't win. He didn't die a hero's death. He didn't get the girl, or at least he did, but didn't get to live out with her. Nothing changed because of his death, at least in the city. He didn't get to revenge his mom's death, nor his friend's death. He died like a dog, forgotten and unwanted. Only Falco and Lucy know of him anymore. The hero of our story died like a side character. This death tells the audience that the city always collects. Dreams have body counts, and survival was never guaranteed. David doesn't just lose, he pays, and that payment retroactively makes every earlier decision feel real. We don't always get the happy ending. Most of the time, you get the bad ending, and that's how life works. Ned Stark from Game of Thrones has a similar ending. Before Ned dies, the story feels like a traditional fantasy with moral protection. Afterwards, it becomes a system where honor is not armor. His death says justice is not guaranteed survival. Power doesn't reward goodness. The world will punish the naive. Like David, Ned doesn't fail. He misjudges the system, and the system always collects. Jane and Andra from Breaking Bad 2 fit this category. Jane's death is the moment the show stops being a crime fantasy and becomes real life. Andra's death proves there is no exit. These deaths all tell the audience collateral damage is permanent, redemption has a shrinking radius, and the cost doesn't stop expanding. Walter survives, others don't. That imbalance is the consequence. Just because he's a hero doesn't mean he'll win. Number 2, death clarifies what the story values. In Your Lie in April, Calorie dies. That's pretty well known at this point, but Calorie's death defines the story's moral geometry. She doesn't die heroically in a battle or saving the world. She dies quietly, unfairly, in midstream, off-screen, like she's not a main character. What makes it more sad is the fact that she had to die. That revelation hurt me even more than the ending itself. To treat fears, there's something called exposure therapy, where the person gets exposed more and more to the thing that causes them anxiety. Kosei is very scared of abandonment, like his mother did to him years before. And with Kaori back in his life, you might think it's all fine now. He's able to play the piano again, but he doesn't get better. He just is better at running from his fears. Even with Kaori letting Kosei ruin her shows and performances, all for him to play the piano again, he's still running. He hasn't confronted the fear. And with her death, Kosei finally has to step up to his biggest fear, being left alone by someone you love. And in doing so, the story declares, art matters because it's fleeting. Love matters even if it's temporary. Being alive is not about duration, but intensity. Her death answers the question, what was worth living for? The answer isn't survival, it's expression, it's connection. It's playing even when the ending is already written. Kaori knew she was going to die, but it didn't stop her from living out her dream and helping her friends out. And that's a heroic way to go out. Sadako from Grave of Fireflies is similar. Sadako's death died to teach a lesson. She dies because the world has decided children are expendable. Innocence has no protection in war, and survival without care is hollow. Love fails when systems collapse. The film doesn't argue, it shows what it values by what it mourns. Nagasa from Canada After Story is similar. Her death is not a cruel spectacle. It's devastating because it removes warmth from the world. Family is the story's core, and with her death, happiness is fragile, and growth doesn't shield you from loss. The story doesn't reward perseverance, it tests it. Number 3, death changes the living. Attack on Titan is one of my favorite fictional stories of all time. It's expansive, large, and deals with a lot of themes. And honestly, when Sasha died, I didn't really care that much because the show desensitized you so much to character deaths that you almost get used to it. But I realized her death meant more. Sasha's death detonates inside the cast. And what makes it even worse is that her death was justified. Gabby was protecting her homeland, her family. And even though we hate Gabby, she was in the right. And before her death, the scouts still carry remnants of innocence. They joke, they eat together, they believe the war, while horrific, is still justified. And after her death, Gabby's worldview shatters, and the grief exposes the cost on civilians. Nothing replaces Sasha, and that absence changes how everyone moves forward. One of the most powerful scenes in the whole show comes when Sasha is able to forgive Gabby for Sasha's death. This is extremely hard, and we would all be on Sasha's dad's side for killing Gabby. Let's be honest now. But one thing the show takes aim at is the cycle of violence. The only reason why Marley and the island are in a war in the first place is because of the cycle of violence. Because Marley couldn't move on from the wars of the past and had to take revenge. And that's what Aaron, and in fact the whole show, is trying to stop, is that cycle of violence. Sasha's dad knows that by killing Gabby, nothing good will come from it. It only leads to more hurt and more grief, and that killing her would mean nothing and would never bring Sasha back. It's a very hard thing to watch, but it's the only right answer. There's nothing more you can do than forgive, and that right there is true courage and power. Sasha's death proves the rule. If nothing changes after a character dies, the story lied about who they were. An Attack on Titan doesn't lie. Number 4, death ends possibility. Kaori's power is not just that she dies, but when she dies, she never gets to confess openly. Hear Kosei's answer, live beyond the lies she told. Everything meaningful is left unfinished, and that's final. There is no more. To look back on the memories is excruciating, and to know that there could have been a different ending makes it hurt even more. But that finality makes her letter devastating, makes every shattered moment heavier in hindsight, and turned someday into a ghost word. Her death freezes possibility. The audience doesn't just mourn her, we mourn everything that will never happen. A Silent Voice is also known as one of the most emotional movies ever made. And well, sure made me emotional. But Shoya's attempt at suicide is similar. Even without a full death, the near lost freezes possibility. Shoya never would have got the closure he needed or to learn how to live. He would have never been able to redeem himself or bring back his friends into the same circles again. How close meaning comes to vanishing, how silence can be final, how survival isn't the same as living, and sometimes possibility ends before death arrives. But thankfully, he didn't. But the fact he would have never got that closure, it's even heartbreaking to think about. But from it, he grew a better man and a better person, and he was able to leave a better mark on the world than what he would have left with. Number 5, death tests the theme. Again, going back into some of our other characters and examples. Sasha's death asks, is this war actually worth fighting? The answer becomes increasingly uncertain. David's death asks, is chasing a dream in a broken system noble or self-destructive? The answer is tragic, not heroic. But all these deaths are necessary for the story's philosophy to hold. And if death doesn't happen, the theme collapses. In both cases, death isn't decoration. It's a cross-examination of the story's beliefs. If the themes couldn't survive the death, they weren't strong enough to begin with. Number 6, death is the ultimate honesty check. All these other examples, they refuse to bring back the dead. No resurrection, no reversal. No, actually, they survived. Because the story made these characters come back. The story would be admitting, we didn't mean it when we said this mattered. Their absence remains permanent and that permanence keeps the audience trust. Contrast that with stories that resurrect characters casually. The audience doesn't grieve anymore. They wait. Death only works when it stays dead. Undoing these deaths would invalidate the entire narrative, and the story doesn't recover from these deaths, and that's the point. The simple truth is that these deaths have to happen. David's death shows death as a consequence. Calorie shows death as meaning. Sasha shows death as transformation. The other example shows consequence kills fantasy, meaning defines value, transformation reshapes the survivors, and finality earns trust. Together they prove the final line. Death is the moment when a story stops asking what if and starts saying this is the cost. And once a story says that honestly, they'll never walk away unchanged. If the character dies and the world keeps spinning the same way, the story was never listening to them. With modern times, the world seems increasingly uncertain, and it looks like, well, there might be a new war starting up, and of course war comes death. But I want to remind everybody that life is not about dying. Life is about living. You have to embrace death in order to fully live. You can't be scared of it. Just gotta keep going. Thank you for watching this video. It truly means a lot to me. This one is probably one of my favorite videos I've made. I'm very glad about it. So, thank y'all. I truly didn't get to put into words how much I love these movies and these shows. Because of Silent Voice, Your Lie in April, Edge Runners, AOT, all of them are beautiful works of art. And no words can describe the impact they had on me. But hey, maybe I'll make a video where I just rant about them forever. But yeah, thank you guys. See you in the next one. Have a good day.